let's call it what it is. The Canadiens' power play isn't dead, but it's just getting way too predictable. In the playoffs, predictability can get punished. It's not about talent. It's not about effort. It's not even about one bad night. It's about habits. And the Canadiens have the talent on their first unit. That goes without saying. Suzuki, Caulfield, Hutson, Selectivity, and Demidov. That's real skill. It's vision. It's shot making. It's creativity. But right now, the Canadiens are giving their opponents too clear a roadmap. Pressure Suzuki, pressure Hutson, take away Caulfield's lane. Let the Canadiens pass on the outside. Wait for them to get too cute. Then end up killing the penalty. That can't be the plan anymore. And in Game 5 in this series, you can't allow that. Not when the margins are so small. Because Game 4 wasn't just a loss. It was a clear warning. 7 power plays, 1 goal. A late 4-minute power play, only 2 shots. That's not good enough. That's not playoff pressure. That's not how you bury a team. But here's the positive. Everything is adjustable and fixable. The question is, how fast can the Canadiens do it? They don't need to reinvent the whole power play, though. They don't need to panic or blow everything up, but they need to get a little bit more direct. They need more shots and traffic, and they need their second power play unit to get touches and matter. And most importantly, they need to stop acting like the perfect goal is the only goal worth scoring. Because in the playoffs, ugly, deflections, rebounds, broken plays, they all count. And right now, Montreal needs more broken plays. So let's talk some more playoff and power play puck. Now, before I get into the power play in and of itself and what needs to be changed or tweaked or whatever, I got to take a minute to talk about comments that I've seen through the shows that I've done during this playoff series, specifically with the Buffalo Sabres. I didn't even see this with Tampa Bay Lightning fans. And this is the fun part. You know, I don't sit here and profess that the Canadiens are the perfect team, and I don't think anybody should. And I don't think we should watch the games through rose-colored glasses. There's going to be differences between who thinks it was goaltender interference or who wasn't. We're going to dispute penalties, that's for sure. But all that being said, I haven't seen so much craziness from a fan base like I have from the Buffalo Sabres. And listen, I can appreciate it. You want your team to do well. You want them to succeed. There are people out there putting in the comments that the series is already over. They said that after Game 2. They're doing the same thing now. Guys, you got to stop. I never professed at any time on this show, or any other show for that matter, or even in the comments, that the Canadiens were going to win this series easily. I said it was going to go down to the wire. I said it was going to go 7 games. I think the Canadiens are going to come out on top, but nonetheless, one way or the other, when you take a look at it, I'm not looking at it through Habs-colored glasses. I said from the very beginning, this series is very even. The teams each scored 13 goals during the regular season. Their power plays had 1 goal in 11 and 13 chances respectively. So everything was there to say this series was going to be tight. But to turn around and say that we still think that the Canadiens won the game despite the loss, you got to be out of your freaking mind. So I'm going to ask you this, Buffalo Sabres fans. I don't mind that you get involved. I don't mind that you jump onto the channel. But don't turn around and profess that I'm the guy that doesn't know what he's talking about, okay? Because I'll tell you this. I've been doing media for the last 20 plus years, whether it's with CBC or the podcast that I was on. I've worked in hockey as a coach or an executive with junior teams for the last 25 years. I got to know something to be able to hold on to those jobs. So don't treat me like I'm an idiot. And the people that say that I'm just a YouTuber, yeah, I'm a YouTuber right now, and I'm damn proud of it. But I'm also somebody who is very involved with the game on a day-to-day basis. Are you? I had to get that off my chest, though, because I know that a lot of you say don't listen to the comments and whatever, but oftentimes it just hits the wrong way, and I don't want to be rude to Buffalo fans. You're allowed to cheer for your team. You're allowed to love them the same way Habs fans love the Canadiens. But to turn around and say what you've been saying on our channel, where I don't think there's a single person out there who hasn't criticized the Canadiens for the shit play and who thinks that the Canadiens won Game 4 despite the fact that Buffalo scored 3 goals and one of them extremely lucky. Nobody said that. So let's not make shit up and let's just move forward here, okay? Now it's time to talk about the Canadiens' power play, and not in a casual way and not in a they just need to execute way. We're going to go a little bit deeper because it's one of the biggest storylines in this series right now. Because the Canadiens had chances in Game 4. Real chances. Huge chances. And chances that could have swung momentum. That could have swung the series. But they let Buffalo survive. That's the harsh truth. But we're not here to throw the power play into the garbage, right? That would be lazy. We're here to diagnose it. Because the power play has enough skill to hurt Buffalo. They've got intelligence. They know enough about puck movement. And they have enough shooting. But right now, it doesn't have enough urgency. And that's the word you need to look for. Urgency. There's way too much waiting. There's waiting and dusting off the puck, looking for the perfect seam. Dependence on the same two distributors. There's too much pressure on Suzuki and Hutson to solve everything. And not enough simple playoff hockey. Shoot, traffic, recovery, shoot again. Make the goalie work. Make the penalty killers turn around. Make Buffalo feel uncomfortable. That's the real adjustment. And it has to start right now. Now, I know the Canadiens' power play has been way too top-heavy all season. That's not a hot take. That's the structure. The first unit gets all the trust, all the prime minutes, all the clean runway. And the second unit, they're the baby sister. Too often they get all the leftovers, 30, 40 seconds, maybe less. No rhythm, no clean entry, no chance to build anything. And listen, I understand why. You have Suzuki, Caulfield, Hutson, Slakovsky, and Demidov on that first unit. And of course, it'll get priority. It's your number one unit. That's the unit that has all the high-end skill, that with the best chances to create a grade A look. And that's the unit that you want out there and you trust when the game's on the line. But here's the real problem. When you lean on one group way too heavily, you just don't build any chemistry. And you also build a scouting report, one that the Buffalo Sabres can use. They know where the puck wants to go on every power play. They know who wants to hold it, who wants to distribute it, and who wants to finish it. They know Montreal wants Suzuki to control the wall. They want Hutson to walk the line. Caulfield, they know they want to be in a shooting pocket. They know Slakovsky can be used as the bumper or the net front option, and they know Demidov can make plays when he gets a little bit of space. So Buffalo's not guessing here. They're reading, anticipating. They're sitting on Montreal's habits that they've built throughout the season. That's the danger of being too top-heavy. You might have your best players on the ice, but if your opponent knows exactly what your best players want to do, then talent alone isn't enough anymore. The Canadiens need variation. They need a second wave. They need different looks. They need the Sabres to defend more than just one version of the power play. Because right now, Buffalo's not defending two power play units equally. They're loading up mentally for power play one, and that's the real big problem. And that's on the Canadiens to fix. Now, we specifically have to look at two players at the center of this whole thing. And that's Nick Suzuki and Lane Hutson. Those are two players that make the Canadiens' power play breathe. Suzuki's the brains, Hutson's the feet. Although Hutson's a pretty smart player too. Suzuki controls the pace, and Hutson changes angles. Suzuki scans, Hutson walks the line. Suzuki manipulates defenders, Hutson can pull the penalty kill out of shape. Those are not just two players on the power play, they're the power play's operating system. And the Sabres know that. That's why it feels like teams are pressuring those two more than anybody else, and rightfully so. Because they're not just pressuring the puck, they're pressuring the decision-making. They're trying to make Suzuki move it before he wants to. They're trying to make Hutson pass it sideways instead of attacking downhill. And they're trying to force the Canadiens into harmless possession. And that's exactly what's been happening way too often. The Canadiens had the puck, but they didn't always have pressure. And there's a very distinct difference there. Possession isn't pressure. Passing's not pressure. Standing still with the puck is definitely not pressure. Pressure happens when the Sabres are scrambling in their own zone and when the goalie loses his sight lines. It's when defenders have to box out and when pucks get to the net and chaos ensues. And right now, the Sabres are doing an excellent job at stopping Montreal from getting there. You're not going to blame the Canadiens for all of this. The Sabres need a lot of flowers to be thrown at them too, because they're the ones that are defending the right way. They're out there in a diamond shape. They're pressuring the puck and they're forcing too much chaos for the Canadiens to handle that power play, all on the outside. They're cutting off the engine completely. So they know, pressure Suzuki, pressure Hutson, deny Caulfield, collapse when you need to, clear rebounds, reset. That's their formula to success on the penalty kill, and the Canadiens have to find a way to break it. Now let's make this abundantly clear. Cole Caulfield isn't being ignored. Nobody is ignoring Cole Caulfield. That's not happening. He's way too dangerous. His release is too good. His shot is too well respected. But he's being defended a lot differently than he was during the regular season. The Sabres don't always have to chase Caulfield if the puck can't get to him. And that's the key thing. You can't chase the shooter first when the puck's not available to him. So you disrupt the passers. That means Suzuki, Hutson. It means closing off the seam. It means taking care of the timing, and it means taking care of the lane. So when Caulfield looks quiet, it's not always because he's doing nothing. Sometimes it's because the Sabres are making sure the puck arrives very late or just never gets to him. Or the puck gets there flat or not at all. That's why Montreal has to move. You can't let Caulfield become a stationary target. If he stands in the same shooting pocket for too long, the Sabres can shade towards him. They can front him, cheat towards the lane, and they can force Suzuki to look somewhere else. And so move him, because it happens way too often. Rotate him a little bit higher. I've suggested this before. Get him into the high slot just above the circles. Drop him lower. Get him closer to the goal line. Get him more touches there. Bring him into the bumper for quick touches. You're putting Slakovsky there. Why not throw Caulfield in there when the pucks come off the opposite side from Demidov's side? Let him sneak to the weak side. Let him change his angle. Make Buffalo find him again. Because if the Sabres always know where the shot's going to be coming from, then they can defend that idea before the play even happens. That's what playoff hockey is. The scouting is too good, especially in a series. If it was a one-and-done game, it'd be a different story. But in a 7-game series, there are tendencies that are viewed, and the scouting is way too good to ignore. And the details of those scouting reports are way too sharp. So you can't rely on the same look over and over again. It's impossible. Caulfield doesn't need less responsibility. He just needs a little bit more movement. And the Canadiens need to create a power play where his shots come from motion, not from standing still and waiting. That's how you end up unlocking him, even at 5-on-5 in some cases. Now, shot selectivity has gone way too far, and that's the biggest issue for the Canadiens. They're just way too selective, too picky, overly patient, too careful, and too determined to score a pretty goal. Who cares? But listen, patience is good, poise is good, skill is good. But at a certain point in time, there's a line, and Montreal has to cross it. They're not. When you get a power play and you come away with just a single shot, that's not patience. It's waste, sheer stupidity, a lack of engagement. When you get a 4-minute power play and you generate just 2 shots, that's not structure. That's a failure to demand enough from the guys on the ice. And listen, Habs fans are going to bitch at me, but it's a harsh truth. You can't have that in the playoffs, period. You can't have that when the series is tied. You can't have it when you're trying to get a lead in the series. You can't have it at all. And you can't have it when the Sabres are begging to survive and you just let them breathe. That's the part that bothers me the most. It's not that Montreal missed every chance. It's that they didn't create enough chaos. They didn't force enough saves. They didn't force enough rebound battles. They didn't force the Sabres penalty killers to spend enough energy on the ice. You want to break the penalty kill? Make the damn thing work. Make them stop pucks, turn around, box out Slakovsky, find Caulfield. Make them close on Hutson, chase Suzuki a little bit, have them collapse, expand, and do it all over again. Shift after shift, line after line. That's how you wear them down. But if you pass around for the first 60 or 70 seconds of your power play and generate just one clean look, and if that's not nearly enough. And that leaves the Sabres off the hook. And in Game 4, that's exactly what the Canadiens did. They let the Sabres off the hook. And that has to sting, because it should also sharpen them. Here's the thing. The officiating was so bad, the Canadiens got 7 power plays in that hockey game. One of them for 4 minutes. And they came away with just a single goal, the one scored by Cole Caulfield. Everybody was happy when he scored it, but I can tell you this, when you spend the better part of 16 minutes of a hockey game on the power play, the 2 things happen. One, if you can't score, you give the other team a little bit more swagger. And if you don't score, you also end up changing the rhythm of your entire team, because 16 minutes of the game, almost an entire period, is spent on the power play. Now, the correction's not complicated here. Shoot more. Not recklessly, not blindly, but more. Get pucks through bodies. Have the pucks hit pads. Get more pucks to the far side. Get it through traffic. Make Buffalo have to defend pucks while they're moving, and make their box reset. And for the love of God, when you shoot, stop trying to shoot so fine that you miss the net. The Canadiens don't need to turn a low IQ shooting gallery, right? They need to understand that volume creates quality, not just from the shot itself, but from rebounds. The first shot may not be the chance. The rebound might be. The second recovery might be. The skull-mouth scramble, the broken coverage. The third puck might be. That's what playoff scoring is all about. Not perfect, not clean, and never pretty, but it's always effective. And effective is all that matters at this time of year. Now, if there's one criticism we all have about Lane Hutson, and this has to be a massive adjustment, he doesn't shoot enough. He doesn't have to become Shea Weber. That's not who he is. We're not asking him to hammer pucks through shin pads from the blue line. That's not the point. We want him to be shoot passing a little bit. We've seen that from a lot of defensemen. John Carlson is a master at it, especially when he was with the Capitals, and he's doing it now for the Anaheim Ducks. Controlled pucks, low shots, wristers into traffic, pucks that are fired towards the far side pad, looking for a rebound, looking for tip lanes, pucks aimed for sticks, pucks that create second chances. That's where Hutson can hurt Buffalo, because the Sabres want him up high so that they can pressure him. They want to take away his time. They want to stop him from walking the line and force him to move the puck before he manipulates the box. So punish that. Move laterally, change the angle, then get the pucks through. That's it. Not always for a direct goal, but looking for rebounds, for a scramble, for Slakovsky's stick, like we saw the other day, like for Caulfield arriving on the weak side, or Suzuki recovering off the wall. That's how Hutson can turn pressure against the Sabres. If the penalty killers attack him, space always opens behind that pressure. But the puck has to move quickly. The shot has to come quickly, and the decision has to come quicker. Hutson is a brilliant player. He sees things most players don't see. But in this series, he can't only be a distributor. He has to become a trigger. Not a bomb, but a trigger. There's a difference there. A bomb is all about power. A trigger is about timing. Hutson's timing can be deadly. We've seen that before. And right now, the Canadiens need more of that. Now, Nick Suzuki. This is where the captain has to take control, and I say that with all the respect in the world, because Suzuki is one of the smartest players, if not the smartest player on the team. He understands pace, pressure, and he knows when to slow the game down. But right now on the power play, he can't only be a calm distributor. He has to attack more. He has to shoot more. He has to make the Sabres respect his own threat. Because if Suzuki becomes too pass first, then the Sabres can cheat. They can lean towards Caulfield. They can shade towards the seam. They can pressure Hutson a little bit more and dare Suzuki to make the next play. So Suzuki has to learn to punish that. Catch, step middle, shoot. Get the puck, fake seam, attack downhill. Receive a pass, pull the defender, put the puck on net. That's how you change the penalty kill. Because once Suzuki shoots twice, everything opens. The seam, Caulfield, the bumper, the low play, even the back door. But not the shot. The shot has to be real. Not a bluff, not a last resort, but a real threat. Suzuki doesn't have to force plays. He doesn't have to do anything other than demand space. That's a real difference. When he attacks, the penalty kill has to respect him because he's that good. And when they respect him, the rest of the unit gets a little bit more air to breathe. That's leadership on the power play, not just making the right pass, but making the opponent fear every option that's out there. Now, I got to talk about Yuri Slakovsky. Game 4 was no cakewalk for him. It wasn't easy, and it certainly wasn't good. Slakovsky is where the Canadiens have to simplify things fast. He needs to become a bigger problem around the net. And not just sometimes, but consistently. Buffalo should feel him on every power play, screening, tipping, recovering, leaning, winning inside position. We've seen it work in the past. He did it a couple of games ago. He's got to be there making the goalie fight for sight lines and making defenders box him out. A lot like Zach Benson. I'd love that. And he has to make every point shot dangerous by not allowing the goaltender to see it. Because that's how you increase shot output without needing perfect passing. You put a big body in the goalie's eyes and you just fire pucks at him. Simple, hard, and effective hockey. Slav has the size. He's got the hands and the strength, and he's got enough skill to make plays in very tight areas despite his size. So use him like a playoff weapon, not just a passing option, not just a bumper piece, and not just a guy rotating around the formation. Plant him, move him, crash him, use him. Make Buffalo pay for collapsing. If Luukkonen sees every shot, that's a problem for the Canadiens. If he tracks every puck cleanly, that's an even bigger problem. And if Buffalo clears every rebound easily, well, guess what? Your power play sucks ass. And Slakovsky can change that. He doesn't need to be a complicated assignment, right? His assignment should be very, very simple. Take away the goalie's eyes, win the inside, find the rebound, and make every puck to the net matter. That's it. That's playoff hockey. That's simplicity. That's how you turn average shots into real dangers. Now, if there's one thing the Canadiens need to adjust as well, is how much they attack from below the goal line. Because when everything runs through Hutson on the top and Suzuki on the wall, Buffalo can pressure outward. They can attack the perimeter and they can push Montreal away from the middle. And they can keep the pucks above the dots. It's rather easy when you do that. So you make them defend inward instead. You use the goal line. You use quick plays from behind the net. Force the goalie to turn his head. Every goalie in the world feels uncomfortable when the puck's behind the net. I can tell you that. Force penalty killers to turn their shoulders and collapse and chase you behind the net. And then you attack the space that opens above the goal line and in front of the net. That's how you break a box. That's how they do it against the Canadiens. Just watch. Every freaking time. They generate from behind the net, they kick the puck low to high, and they create openings. You don't only pass around everything. You pull the box apart when you do. As I said, low to high to low, behind the net, back to the slot, across a seam. Shot, rebound, and that changes the entire rhythm. And that's the word again, rhythm. Montreal can't let Buffalo settle into the same kill style over and over again because that's what's happening. When the puck goes low, everything changes. The goalie has to move. The defenders have to check over their shoulders. The net front battle becomes a real problem. The slot opens up. The high slot opens up. The back door opens up. And that's what Montreal needs right now. More variety, more movement, and a hell of a lot more discomfort. Buffalo wants a predictable power play. So stop giving it to him. Now we got to talk a little bit more about power play unit number 2 because this is where the conversation gets real. Do you think it's too late to make power play 2 meaningful in this series? Absolutely not. It's not too late. But it's too late to make power play 2 polished. And that's the truth. They haven't seen enough ice this year. They're not suddenly going to create months of chemistry in the middle of the second round of the playoffs. And you can't suddenly build automatic reads when they weren't developed all season. And that might be the one mistake that Marty St. Louis might have made in terms of the power play this season. You can't magically turn PP2 into the elite second unit overnight. But you still can make them useful. Simple hockey. You make them direct. You make them dangerous enough to change the Sabres' rhythm. And that matters. It's okay to have 2 different power play units. PP2 doesn't have to be PP1. PP2 doesn't need anything other than to do 3 very simple things. Get into the zone, shoot, and recover. That's it. Win an entry, puck on the net, crash. Hard. Win a battle, create a face-off. Force Buffalo to work, and all of it becomes meaningful. Because right now, when power play 1 stays out too long and doesn't score, power play 2 often comes onto the ice cold. They've got no rhythm, no time, no momentum. And it's a bit unfair for that second unit. And like I said, it's also about bad bench management. A lot of times, power play 1 will get 80 or 90 seconds in the zone because they've got possession of the puck. But again, that all comes down to the fact that they stay along the perimeter. If they didn't and they got more shots on goal, power play 2 might see more time. And if power play 1 gets those 80 or 90 seconds and doesn't generate enough, you can't expect power play 2 to save the power play with just 25 seconds left on the clock. That's not a chance for the power play 2. That's just a cleanup shift. So change the rule. If PP1 doesn't create a real chance in the first 40 to 45 seconds, then you get power play 2 to go on. Not as a punishment, but as a strategy. Fresh legs, different looks, a different pace, and a more direct attack. That forces Buffalo to prepare for something different than just power play one. And that's the whole point. Make Buffalo defend both units, not just one with a leftover shift. And the simplest fix the Canadiens can make is what we call the first shot rule. You see a clean lane, shoot. The box breaks, attack. You get the first recovery, shoot again. Don't wait 75 seconds for the perfect play. It never comes. Get the puck to the net early and build the power play from there. It's not about panic shooting, it's about establishing pressure, and there's a massive difference there. A bad shot into shin pads isn't always the answer. A clean shot with traffic? Yes. A low shot for a rebound? Absolutely. A quick puck through a moving screen? So great. You know, those flybys, you can't give them enough value. And a shot pass towards the far pad? A one-timer when the lane opens up? Absolutely, on both counts. The Canadiens need to stop treating shots like they're only valuable when they're perfect. Shots create events. Events create mistakes. Mistakes create goals. It's a simple formula. And right now, the Canadiens are trying to pass their way into certainty. But playoff hockey never gives you certainty. It only gives you windows. Very small, fast, and ugly ones. You have to take them, no matter what they look like. And that's the adjustment they have to make. The first shot doesn't need to end the power play, but it needs to start the pressure. Now let's go back for a moment to the game and a time that really bothered me, and it bothered everybody. And that's the late 4-minute power play in the second period. That was the chance for the Canadiens to put a stranglehold on game number 4. That was the moment to grab the game by the throat and force the Buffalo Sabres to turn frustration into desperation. It was the moment the Canadiens could turn their frustrations into control. And the Canadiens didn't do enough at that point. 2 shots. That can't happen. Not with the amount of talent on this team, not at this stage of the season, and not with the series hanging in the balance. And I can tell you this, like me, there are a lot of fans out there who are happy with the fact that the Canadiens clinched a playoff spot without having to wait until the last day of the season, and very happy that the Canadiens won a first-round series. With those 2 points checked off, everybody that I've spoken to anyway thinks that it's a successful season. But that doesn't mean we want the Canadiens just to, pitch a tent and leave. That 4-minute power play is the kind of sequence that should be played back in the room. Not to embarrass anybody and not to crush anybody, but to sharpen the entire team, because that sequence tells the truth about what's hurting the Canadiens right now. It's not that the Canadiens lack skill, and the issue isn't that Montreal doesn't impose himself. It means that the Sabres survived because the Canadiens allowed the survival. And that may sound harsh. Good. It's supposed to be. Because in the playoffs, you don't get endless chances to learn the same lesson. When a team gives you a 4-minute power play, you have to make them feel it. Even when you don't score, they have to come out of that kill exhausted, rattled, and they have to come out scrambling. They should come out knowing they got away with something. But if they come out clean, confident, and they come out feeling like they solved the best unit, that's the most dangerous thing you could have done in that entire 4-minute power play. And that's what Montreal has to prevent for Game 5. The next big power play can't be a wasted opportunity. They have to turn it into a statement. And I want to be clear. I'm not saying blow the whole damn thing up, especially not the first unit. Absolutely not. Don't panic and don't overreact. And don't start throwing names into a blender just to look like you're busy. That's not coaching. That's guessing, and that's desperation. And that's not what Marty St. Louis does. The Canadiens have a very good first unit. They've got real weapons, and they have players who can win a series. The answer is not destruction. It's about sharpening what you're doing on the ice. Sharper decisions, sharper rotations, sharper shot mentality and net front presence, better usage of power play 2, and sharper response to the pressure. That's the foundation, right? And you keep that foundation. But what you have to do at this time of year is you have to demand more from it. Suzuki has to shoot more. Hutson has to be the trigger more. Caulfield has to move around. Slakovsky, he needs to be a better screen. And Demidov has to attack space more often. And power play 2 has to be used earlier. That's not panic. For the Canadiens, it would be evolution. And a playoff series is all about evolution. The team that adjusts first normally ends up winning the game. The team that repeats that same problem usually ends up paying for it. And Montreal has a choice at this point. Stay comfortable or get sharper. And I think they're going to get sharper because the fixes are all right there. I know a lot of people have been looking at the power play and saying, oh, Ivan Demidov's been, useless. So let's take a look at him for a second. Because if teams are overloading Suzuki and Hutson, then the Canadiens need to have a third release valve. And that has to be Ivan Demidov. He has the hands and the creativity, and he has the ability to attack downhill. But he can't just be another player waiting for the puck while Suzuki and Hutson do all the solving for him. He has to become a pressure release point. When Buffalo jumps Hutson, where's the quick support? When Suzuki gets pressured, where's the immediate outlet? When the seam to Caulfield is covered, who attacks the middle? That's where Demidov has to matter. Not by forcing highlight plays, not by attacking the space, but by, take the space that Buffalo gives up when they overpressure the main distributors. That's the key. That's where Demidov has to live in these playoffs. Every aggressive penalty kill gives something away. If Buffalo pressures Suzuki and Hutson, there's space somewhere on the ice. Find it, attack it, and punish it. That's how the power play becomes dangerous again. Because once the Sabres realize they can't just pressure two players without consequences, the whole penalty kill changes. Suddenly Hutson has more time. Suzuki gets a little bit more space to think. Caulfield has better looks with the puck. And Slakovsky, he gets a few more rebound opportunities. It all connects. But somebody has to punish the pressure. Demidov can be that guy for the Canadiens. Now, Buffalo's going to Luukkonen doesn't change the assignment, right? It actually makes the assignment much clearer. Test him. Make him work. Make him handle rebounds. Make him track through traffic. Make him move side to side. Don't let him ease into the game. Don't let him see every puck. And don't let him sit back while Montreal passes around the outside. When a goalie comes in and stabilizes his team, you don't respect him into rhythm. You attack him. You make his night uncomfortable. And that doesn't mean just throwing muffins from the point. It means layered pressure, traffic, screens, tips, rebounds, low plays, lateral movement, second chance opportunities. That's how you test a goalie. And in Game 4, the Canadiens did not test Luukkonen enough. And you don't do it by waiting for the perfect opening. By creating a game where every puck is a problem, that's how you do it. That's what Montreal needs to do. If Luukkonen is going to be the story, then make him earn every sentence and every paragraph. Don't hand him clean saves. Don't hand Buffalo clean clears. And don't hand the penalty kill easy resets. Make them fight. That has to be your playoff mindset. So, with all that, what does Game 5 need to look like? Well, that's simple. The first power play has to set the tone. Not necessarily score, but set the tone. First entry, clean. First setup, quick. First lane, has to get a shot away. First rebound, battle. First clear, win it back, bring it back. That's how you announce that Game 4 taught you something. That's where the Canadiens cannot come out with the same slow, selective power play. They can't spend the first opportunity looking for the perfect pass around the perimeter. They need to show Buffalo that the scouting report has changed. You pressure Hutson? Fine. He moves it faster and gets it through. You pressure Suzuki? No problem. He attacks the middle and shoots. You shade Caulfield? He rotates and finds a new pocket. You collapse? Slakovsky gets in your goalie's eyes and you overplay power play 1. And if you do that, power play 2 comes on fresh and shoots everything through traffic. That's the response. That's the adjustment. That's how you turn frustration into belief. And because this is still there for Montreal. That's the positive. They're not being outclassed or overwhelmed, and they're not looking like they can't generate anything. They're close, but they're not close enough. Close has to become ruthless, and it has to become direct, and it has to become real playoff execution. That's the next step for the Canadiens. But here's the harsh truth. The Canadiens had a chance to take control of the series. They didn't. The power play had a chance to make a huge difference. It wasn't anywhere near good enough. The first unit had a chance to punish the Sabres. They were too selective. The second unit had a chance to change the rhythm. They weren't given enough meaningful runway. That's the criticism. Now here's the hope. Every single one of those problems has a correction. It's not talent shortage. It's not a hopeless power play. And this isn't a team where there's no answers. This is a team that needs their habits to be adjusted a little bit. That's fixable. Shoot sooner, move more, get PP2 on earlier. Get Slav to the net. Make Suzuki a shooter. Make Hutson a trigger. Move Caulfield around the zone a little bit. Let Demidov attack pressure. Stop hunting perfection on the power play. Start creating chaos. That's the path to victory for the Canadiens. And if Montreal does that, the Sabres penalty kill changes immediately because now they can't sit on the same reads. They can't pressure the same two players without getting punished. They can't relax when PP2 comes over the boards because they're ready to go. They can't let Luukkonen see everything. They have to defend, really defend. And that's when the Canadian skill can take over. Not before that. It has to be after the work, after the pressure, and after the chaos. And that's the order. Work first, skill second, finish third. And for Marty St. Louis, this is a real coaching moment, not a panic moment. He doesn't need to abandon his players and he doesn't need to rip everything apart, but he needs to demand different levels of directness. Because trust is important, but trust can't be stubbornness. You trust your top line. Good, you should. You should also recognize that the opponent has adjusted. The Sabres have adjusted. They're pressuring the right people, denying the right lanes, and they're surviving the right moments. And now the Canadiens have to counter. That's coaching. It's not emotion. It's not reaction. It's a true counterpunch. Give power play 1 a clear first shot rule. Make PP2 a real shift in the power play. Create a net front mandate. Move Caulfield. Free Demidov. Empower Hutson to shoot pass. Tell Suzuki to attack. It's not overly complicated, but it has to be intentional. Because playoff power plays don't fix themselves. They get fixed through details. And this series is a living detail in and of itself. That's where the Canadiens have to win. And for the players, the message is simple. Stop waiting. Stop waiting for the perfect play. Stop waiting for Buffalo to open up. And stop waiting for a seam to magically appear. Force it to get there. Earn it. Create it. Shoot through pressure. Recover through traffic. Win the next puck. Make the ugly play. Take a hit to make a play, get inside, and demand the net. That's playoff hockey. Nobody's giving Montreal a beautiful power play lane in the second round. Nobody's giving Caulfield free one-timers all night. And nobody's giving Hutson 5 seconds at the blue line to make a read. And they're certainly not giving Suzuki a clean wall to operate from. You take the space, you create the lane, and you make the Sabres defend longer than they want to defend. That's the challenge, and this group can answer it. They've done it before, and that has to be the belief here. Suzuki's smart enough. Hudson's dynamic enough. We know that Caulfield's dangerous enough. Selectivity is strong enough, and Demidov has enough creativity in him to do things. And Power Play 2 is capable enough to actually matter. But enough talking about potential. Now it has to show up on the shot clock, in rebound battles, in the goalie's crease, in the pressure, and in the result. That's where the power play has to go next. So here's my final take. The Canadiens' power play problem isn't that it lacks talent. The problem is it's become way too easy to read. Too much runs through Suzuki and Hutson. Too much depends on Caulfield getting a perfect look. Too much of power play 2 being treated like an afterthought. Too many power plays ending with 1 or 2 shots. And too many possessions looking controlled instead of dangerous. That has to change. And it can. It's not the end of the story. It's an adjustment point. And that's where the series can swing. Because when a power play fixes itself in the playoffs, it doesn't need to just score goals. It changes momentum. It changes confidence. It changes the way your opponent defends. It changes your bench, and it changes the building. Montreal has all the pieces. Skill, intelligence, but now they have to find the bite. More shots, more traffic, more urgency, more movement, and more pressure. And a lot less perfection. That's the formula. Game 4 showed them the problem. Game 5 has to show the correction. And if the Canadiens make the correction, this series is right there for them to take. Not because Buffalo's weak. They're not. They're playing extremely well. And not because Montreal deserves it. Nobody deserves anything in the playoffs. But because the Canadiens have enough weapons to make Buffalo pay. They just have to stop letting Buffalo defend the same power play over and over and over again. Change the rhythm. Change the look, change the pressure, and that's how you change the series. Now, I want to know what you think. Is the Canadiens' power play too dependent on Suzuki and Hutson? Should Marty St. Louis give power play 2 more meaningful minutes? And who's going to be the X factor on the power play in Game 5? Slav? Caulfield? Demidov? Hutson? Put what you think in the comments. And if you're fired up for this series, make sure you hype this video and hit the like button. Subscribe to PuckTalk Montreal because the series is far from over, not even close. But the Canadiens have to adjust, be sharper. They need to be harder. And on the power play, they have to stop looking for the perfect goal and start demanding the next shot. We'll see you after the post-game. Or actually, we'll see you post-game. And remember, keep your skates down, stick on the ice, go Habs go.